folks, now in this segment for the aeroponic cloner, we're going to be talking about the hydroponic solution. Now I always prep and have the solution ready prior to having my cuttings ready because you don't want them to dry out or have any chance of anything going wrong, so they get cut, treated, and go right into this solution. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it prior, but this tote is a 27 gallon and we only fill it halfway. I put approximately, you can see about the line right here, approximately 12 gallons into this, and there's several good reasons for it. One, water's heavy, 8.34 pounds per gallon, I believe. And so 12 gallons in here is just over 100 pounds. Now this one isn't even full yet. We have one more bucket to fill it with. Now this is well water, but it does have a high hardness level. Calcium carbonate is the primary alkali agent in here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now one of the reasons, or the other reasons you want only 12 gallons, only in here because you want some airspace between your sprayers. Oh, our other aeroponic cloner just kicked on. I don't know if you can hear that. That's that 1 minute spray. Anyway, you want some airspace because you want the roots that are going to form and drape down to have oxygen, as well as be able to get access to the mist spray of nutrient and moisture. So basically you do not want, that's the water level right now, you do not want the water level to reach above the spray nozzles because then they won't work properly. So this stuff is already pH'd out, and well, let's check it actually, and we'll show you. We pH'd it, that's the middle strip there. Yeah, that's pretty alkali. That is in the 8.4 range. So what we're going to add to that, part of our solution is, you can use pH down. A lot of the hydroponic growers swear by that. I think General Hydroponics has a good one. But I just use apple cider vinegar because I prefer the simplicity of it. Now, you're also going to need drill motor and a mixing paddles. This is our remaining 4 gallons-ish, and we're going to add our hydroponic solution to it. So let's talk about that now. Folks, I have tested many hydroponic solutions over the years, and this is the one I have come to prefer. And first up is, it is a combination of synthetics and organics, simply because with hydroponic solution, a blended methodology seems to work the best. So for this, you're going to need a, this is a scale that does milligrams, yep. So I basically will measure these individuals out in grams. And this is, anybody that's familiar with hydroponics will know the master blend combination. Now you should never get your fertilizer solutions together because that represents phosphorus. The calcium in there, they're antagonistic and they will precipitate out and you will get nutrient lockout, meaning neither phosphorus nor calcium will be available if they're blended together. Once they're in an aqueous solution, water obviously, that lockout is not as likely to happen. Plus you get all the other minerals from these that help buffer that chemical reaction. So for this you need a 2:1:2 ratio. And for this instance we did a weak solution, so it was 24 grams, no, correction, 30 grams, 15 grams, 30 grams. Now those will just all get blended together into that solution. In addition to that, for our acid, we have 2 ounces of apple cider vinegar. I believe, in my experience, 2 ounces has brought the pH down sufficiently. We'll pH check it just to be sure in case we need to add more. Now, this is chelated iron and zinc. We don't need much. That's about an ounce, and they usually recommend that per gallon, but we're doing that per 12 gallons. That is just a few of the extra minerals that are useful in the metabolic process of root generation. Speaking of metabolic process, kelp meal, specifically liquid kelp. Now, why do we want liquid kelp aside from the minerals? Well, because this is a cold processed liquid kelp, a lot of the hormone balance is still in there, and there are a lot of hormone precursors to cytokinins. Now, if you're not familiar with plant biology, cytokinins are what the plant uses specifically for root development. Now, it is not a root hormone in and of itself, which we will deal with later, but it is an assistant to it. It allows the plant to more easily reuptake the nutrients it needs and create the roots that it needs to do the job. Along with that, molasses. Very famous as a soil amendment, along with obviously baking and cooking. But it has a great mineral profile, which supplements a lot of the trace minerals, your molybdenum, manganese, cobalts, trace copper, the things that your plant's going to need to stimulate its immune system, which it will need in this stressed out situation of being a cutting. Most importantly though, the sugar content within molasses is 20% sucrose, and sucrose directly feeds cytokinin production and root production. So we are basically formulating this system to set our plant up for success, because everything we can do to take the strain off the plant and make it more readily root, the better. We are set up and ready to mix our solution, and the one thing I believe I forgot to mention on this, and why we don't fill, another reason we don't fill it up, because of the weight of the water. I did mention it's 100 pounds, but these sidewalls will start to give at a certain point, and then the lid will not sit correctly on here. So anything above that halfway mark, and the weight just starts to gently bow these out and deform them, and they're not going to work as effectively. The seal's not going to work as effectively. Again, that's one of the many reasons we don't fill them up completely. So as for the nutrient base here, we're just going to pour them in. Nothing fancy. Now they're all water soluble, even the synthetics. The one that we're probably going to have trouble with is the molasses. I'm going to need to wash it out a couple of times, because that stuff is sticky, sticky, sticky. Now we put our synthetics in, we'll put our iron in, our acid in. The acid's important because it helps hold things in solution. Let's save the molasses for last. Kelp. We'll wash that out. Yeah, it looks like a big inky mess. Those are good minerals and hormone precursors that we want to have available to the plant. And drill motor. Until that gritty sound at the bottom goes away, that means everything is dissolved then. Real fancy here. That's how we do things here in the Red Castle Mad Scientist Lab. Alright, let's set that aside and get our molasses in, which is going to be the biggest pain here, especially doing this one-handed. Alright, come on now. Let's dissolve and pour. Yep, we're getting there. Once this is done, alright, I'm gonna put the camera down for a second. We're gonna finish this off, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's all set up. Our solution is mixed, it is in place, and that right there is the perfect height for it. Now, what is the one thing we didn't do yet? That's right, we gotta recheck the pH. And off camera, I already did dip one, and we'll see how well it is settling. Now the middle strip is our important one here. That is the before. That is the scale we're looking for. The before was 8.4. The current one is approximately 6.8 to 6.2. We want it in that low 6 range. Now, for anybody that has always heard for years and years, pH, pH, pH. Why do we gotta have the low pH? Well, simply put, that is the range, pH being power of hydrogen, that chemicals, elemental components that the plant needs are so chemically active that the plant can actually absorb them. Outside of that range, the chemicals are chemically active in a toxic way and will either lock out so the plant can't absorb them, or they are too acidic and too chemically active to be, they harm the plant. So in that 6 to 6.5 range is the ideal range for plant absorption of the widest variety of nutrients, including the micronutrients that they need. And it looks, just double check here, we give it some more time. Yeah, we're in the solid range. So on our next segment, we are going to talk about how to do your actual cuttings for this setup.